Cordially welcome all the esteemed speakers and our honored participants who have joined us in on this Saturday evening on a non-lockdown day at least. And I hope that you'll enjoy the deliberations that we have today. I'm Sudeep Sen. I'm the head of the Wash Division of Shrachi Group, and I'll be moderating the proceedings today. So before we start this webinar, I'd like to hand over the proceedings to Madam Ruchi Todi, who's the director of the Shrachi Group, to just deliver her welcome address before we get into the webinar. Okay, Ruchi, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sen. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ruchi Todi, Director of the Shrachi Group of Companies, and I'm very pleased that you could join us today for part 2 of EcoPal's webinar series, Emerging Trends in the Wash Sector. So EcoPal, Shrachi EcoPal is a social venture and pioneering biotoilets for state-of-the-art sanitation in India. And it's a part of my family business, the Shrachi Group of Companies based out of Kolkata. And the Shrachi Group itself is involved in many industries such as real estate, engineering, agro machinery, etc. But today's webinar theme revolves around mindset and behavioral change in the wash sector, specifically post the pandemic era. So in the sanitation, hygiene, or social impact sector for that matter, implementing a project actually is the easy part, but getting people to change their attitude, thinking, mindset towards the initiative so that they can continue to reap benefits in a sustained manner is always the most challenging part. And this we've seen can take years or decades for people to adapt to something different. And now, with the pandemic having uprooted all our lives, the trends we have observed in human behavior for so many years has been changed. They've shifted. And we have now been pushed to examine this through different lenses. So government policy, human ethics, social behavior, everything has changed. And to shed some light on this, we have today an amazingly talented and knowledgeable panel of speakers, whom I would like to really graciously thank today for taking the time to address us. So Dr. Kamal Kaur, Mrs. Chaitali Das, Mr. Saurav Das Patnaik, all experts in their fields, and we hope to have a very engaging discussion. I'm also very happy to announce that we have a special guest speaker tuning in later, Dr. Pradhan, with us. And so I will hand over the screen back to Mr. Sen and hope we have a very informative and enjoyable session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruchi, for that wonderful welcome address. Before I proceed further, I'd just like to check with Dr. Kaur, who's still, I think, struggling. Dr. Kaur, can you hear? We are able to see him, but we're not able to hear him. So I put my persons on the job to get him to get the audio running. In the meantime, I think we'll proceed. You see, this webinar is all about, we had a webinar earlier on the emerging trends in the wash sector. So this webinar is about and revolving around mindset and behavioral changes in the wash sector particularly. Now, basically, there's an old adage that if you continue to do what you've always done, you will continue to get what you always got. So if you want to have to do something different, you have to change. And probably change is the only constant factor that we are seeing in this lockdown, in this pandemic, where everybody has to change for the work, whether it's work from home, whether it's using sanitizers, using masks, maintaining social distancing, overcoming fear, and all other changes we have had to make in our daily lives. And perhaps this pandemic has affected each and every business, some for better, some for worse. And wash, that is water, sanitation and hygiene, the business that we are in, this is also affected. And but by God's grace, since it's an issue which deals with immunity and health and hygiene, it still has its own demand even in the post-pandemic era. Now, while we will get Dr. Kaur on the line, I think let's go straight to our speaker, esteemed speaker, Mr. Saurav Das Patnaik. During the course of this webinar, we'll be touching upon various mindset, behavioral changes, social issues, myths associated with the water, sanitation, and hygiene sector. And whereas Dr. Kamal Kaur and Mrs. Chaitali Das will be speaking largely on the sanitation part, Mr. Saurav Daspatnaik and our special guest, Dr. Pradhan, who will come a little later, will be speaking about the effects on the water sector. And after all, we have to understand that all the battles are going to be fought with water. And unless you have water for hand washing, which has been given so much of prevalence in these times, post-pandemic. So if you don't have water for hand washing, if you don't have water to clean your toilets, if you don't have water to drink properly, then we are not going to be able to come to that level of hygiene and immunity, which is so badly required. So, I'll be very glad to introduce Mr. Saurav Patnaik, who's the Managing Director of the Swachh Environment Private Limited, which is a part of the Shrachi Group. And he's also a director on several other companies. He's a BE Mechanical from BIT Mesra and an MS from the Stephen Institute of Technology in New Jersey. He holds various portfolios in various government levels and has a lot of experience in the water sector, in environment sector, in water treatment, effluent treatment, sewage treatment, water supply systems, and then worked in blue chip corporate companies like Tata Steel, Tata Motors, and various other Mercer HR Consulting. And we're all very glad to welcome him over here. And I will hand over the mic to Mr. Daspatnaik. And we're all looking forward to your deliberation on the effect in the water sector. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Daspatnaik.
Thank you, eminent panelists and audience and all the participants today, and thanks for inviting us to share our perspective on water and wash, because the W in the wash starts with actually water. So we thought, though I would have been pleased to have Dr. Kaur to start with, and of course Dr. Chaitali Das as well, a very eminent person and whom I always interact with, and I've got huge respect for the people to be doing the grassroots work. But what we will be discussing is the slide. Is it visible to everybody? Is the slide visible to everybody?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. Right. So I will just quickly rush through. I know there is a paucity of time today, and I have been given only 10 minutes to speak. So I'll just quickly, deliberate on the overall Indian scenario on water sector, because water is the key to wash. Because without water, the sanitation doesn't work. So, though Mr. Modi and our Honorable Prime Minister talked about Swachh Bharat Mission and the Sanitation ODF plus as well, going forward, the water is the Jal Jeevan Mission is the key to success of all the schemes of hygiene and public health. So that's something which is very vital to us. So I think quickly I will get into the presentation mode, and I'll just see if I can navigate the slides. Yeah, so I think most of us are familiar with the Swachhata. And I think Government of India, all the state governments are participating together to create the entire scenario. Now, current scenario in WASH, as we know, all of the statistics I don't have to explain. I think our eminent speakers will be speaking on this. So I'll skip this slide quickly. But one point I wanted to ask you: India is going to be very, very water stressed, and I think that's the map which I wanted to show you. Some of you are familiar with this map. Most of the countries on the red, acute red, and the orange, the magenta color, are all showing that 54% of the India is going to be water stressed, and the battles which you see on the Ladakh, Siachen, etc., are the battle for water going forward. Because that's something with all the water supply is coming in from that part of the Himalayas into the entire Gangetic plain as well. Now, on the Jal Jeevan Mission, large amount of investment is being made, almost $60 billion. One of the biggest schemes ever in independent India has seen. $60 billion investment is going to happen in Jal Jeevan Mission with partnering the state. Fully funded, partially funded and fully funded depending on the state or the union territory of the country. Now, what is going to happen in this is going to bring in lots of challenges and revolutions in our entire area. Swachh Bharat Mission, most of us are familiar with it, so I don't want to delve into this. But Swachh Bharat Mission Phase 2 is something which we are talking about on free behaviors, where sustainable aspects of continuity and reliability continues. ODF plus plus is going to be the thing. That is where fecal sludge and water are going to be the key factor. Now, as we talk about Jal Jeevan Mission policy frameworks, essentially we talk about functional household tap. So the government's ambitious program of reaching out Har Ghar Mein Nal, Jal Se Nal, Nal Se Jal, sorry. So these schemes kind of a thing, though are very, very popular to speak, but very difficult to implement. It's much difficult than the power in the power distribution. Power is something which is much easily managed to transport. But water is something which you will have to transport. It's a mass which is flowing through the pipe, through the pumping stations, and then reaching out to your houses. How much of leakages will happen in this pipeline? How do you manage to supply large quantums of water across the country in villages, rural, far-flung areas, in areas where water is not available? Only surface water is available or groundwater is available. How do you augment it? So the second issue which is coming is the level of drinking water which is being specified. Though under the CPHO guidelines is 135 LPCD, we are talking about 55 liters per day for prescribed quantity per family or household. Now this is something which we are talking about. If you generate more than this, you will need sewerage treatment going forward as well. So objectives of Jal Jeevan Mission, I will quickly skip into this. We are talking about in-village water supply as well as the capacity building, and the capacity building areas are the more important areas, as I think Ruchi mentioned initially. These areas of capacity building with the entire ecosystem is going to be very, very tough going forward. So there is a fresh water, there is reliable drinking water, there is transfer of water from the surface or from the reservoir, from the lake to the household. The quantities of water are very important. Then technology intervention which is going to be using for treatment of water. Then the grey water. When you supply water to any household, you will get blackish or grey water, which is used water. How do you manage to do the used water? How do you manage the water resources? So this is an area at national level, state level, district level, and even the Gram Panchayat level will be involved going forward. And centers' share of investment in this business, in this entire investment of the next 4 years, from the Himalayas and the northern eastern state, 90% of the investment is going to come in from the center, whereas the other states are going to get 50% of the schemes funded from the center. States will have to play an equal effective role. Some of us are familiar with it. Water is a state subject, but then lot of community drinking water initiatives are being taken in isolation, in pockets where water stressed areas are there. Even in Bengal, arsenic is a very major issue, and lot of areas where arsenic affected areas will have to be treated and are being done under the Department of Public Health Engineering and Urban Development. And so we're talking about public-private partnerships where we come in from. We see a role of private sector. We see the role of NGOs. We see the role of the entire ecosystem building up, because it's not possible for a government to only come in and do this kind of delivery. So we will not talk about hybrid annuity, risk mitigation, we not. But I would like to just quickly stop at this slide where Namami Gange is another very large mission where all the river Ganga and the river rejuvenation is taking place. Large amount of investments are taking place. It's called hybrid annuity schemes. This scheme may not be very familiar with lots of people here, but this is typically a structure of public-private partnership, and governments across the world are, even World Bank has actually, this is funded by the World Bank, where companies and from the private sector joining with the government are investing in the capacity and the capital investment into the fold. And then they are in their part of the investment, they are collecting over a period of time in 15 years where they do the O&M. So that's called hybrid annuity scheme, where investment in the initial stage are being recovered through annuity based payments from the government. So that's a very strong ecosystem which comes in from lenders which are actually lending money to make this financial viability. There is a sense of O&M contract, there is a very strong KPI driven, and the concessional agreement is available in the Niti Aayog website, which is being mandated by the World Bank. So we are participating in such STP, sewerage treatment plant, and the network building where collects the entire city waste and then comes into the sewerage treatment, and then it is treated as per the norms of the Pollution Control Board, and very stringent norms now coming in under the green tribunals. So critical success factor for public-private partnership, I would say, these are important. Where private sector, when it comes, they would look at least viability and profitability. Investments on wholesale price index, inflation, future payment mechanism. I would just now like to pause. All of us are familiar with pandemic, and we are all going through our several stages of challenges from this point. At this point of time, while we are going through pandemic, the entire nation is in that entire world is. Please think how the sanitation workers, how the water utility workers are working to ensure supply of water and sewerage is happening at your households. We continuously are working 24/7 to supply water to your households. I'm just giving a case study where we are involved with the Delhi Jal Board. This is one of the largest public-private partnership. As you know, Delhi is a large population of over 25 million people, and it's almost about 1500 square kilometers, and this is only Delhi. I'm not talking about NCT. And the water supply coverage is only 80% today. And going forward, if you see the DDA area, large amount of area, the yellow zones are areas where we are covering the command area of Delhi. So almost 1/7 or 1/8 of Delhi is being supplied and serviced by water network from our side, which is the Naglo, which is the Delhi Jal Board. And if you look at it, this Delhi's land pooling activity, the new areas of Delhi, large amount of population growth is happening going forward. Now, I will quickly skip into this area because this is divided into the zones of Delhi. But you can see there is a severe shortage which is projected in Delhi, almost 550 to 600 million gallons per day shortfall because of the growing population and urbanization. And that is where we will be faced with severe challenges when anybody wants to say we are having wash, but if you don't have water, how do you manage to give wash coming in from? So drinking water and wastewater is going to be one of the biggest challenges for ULBs and municipalities going forward. The capital outlay is going to be large. It needs a huge amount of reservoir, amount of pipeline network, pumping station, electromechanical networks, and poor operation maintenance. These are challenges which we have been facing. You will go to any STP sewerage treatment plant, you will see dirt, donkeys, pigs moving around here and there, very dirty areas. How do you manage this kind of areas? Low efficiencies. Now, major issue in which is political. Everybody wants free water, but to reach out water in your doorstep, it costs 20 rupees a KL. That means 20 rupees a kiloliter, 1,000 liters. How do you manage? Who pays for this? And if you see in a household, even 1,000 liters is going to be expended in a day. You will see a large amount of money is to be continuously pumped in. It is not water, it is money being pumped into the pipelines to see that water gets into your houses. Have you ever thought what is the value of water in Rajasthan versus the value of water in Calcutta? Calcutta, we are lucky that large amount of water is available almost at free of cost. And how does the nation sustain such investments? How do we service unauthorized colonies? Such large amount of urban sprawl coming in. How do you manage to provide them with water, running water, mechanism for user charges, management of non-revenue water? When people don't give revenue out of the water, that's called non-revenue water. Our municipalities are getting stressed financially. So currently, with the key risk and challenges in the light of COVID-19 pandemic, maintaining supplies of water and managing sewerage network, low revenue collections are happening. How do you still manage to supply water when you're not getting paid for it? There is a negative financial outlook considering long-term impact on the Indian economy in the COVID scenario. Operation maintenance of plant considering currently lockdown, no lockdown, suppliers, chemicals, chlorine, polyelectrolytes, all these have to be supplied in water treatment plant. It's a continuous plant. Plant has to run. How do you manage to continue to supply and manage to keep the workers also safe? Please imagine if the WTP workers get infected with COVID, what will happen to the entire chain? COVID can also travel through water. This is a very, very serious situation which can emerge. So we have to manage stocks, we have to manage chlorine, we have to manage all this stock and keep buffer stocks in this pandemic situation. Logistics supply chain is going to be very, very erratic as we go on. And at the same time, maintain very close touch on the discharge norms of sewerage, because sewerage in across the Holland in US, people are now measuring after COVID virus is being carried on through the sewerage network, and then this becomes spread out across our river and lakes. What will happen to the entire nation? So we have to still continue to see how the discharge is being done at the sewerage treatment plants. Is there any remnants of COVID into the water chain? If it happens, how can we destroy? How can we control it? Now, this is a classic example. Of course, my eminent speakers in the past will now speak about it on engagement. When we are giving water connections to the public at large, how much does it cost? So we are encouraging people to take water connection rather than pilferage and theft. That's something which is very bad, because every theft, every pilferage is a national loss. We are giving continuous supply and quality monitoring of water online. People can get their water supplied at their houses to be checked up. So there is a whole lot of work which we are doing at Delhi with the Delhi Jal Board in working with the welfare societies, with the resident welfare associations, schools. The children we are talking about, we have adopted 30 schools in Delhi to work with them to spread the knowledge of how to do water conservation. Wash is an area which is very, very vital for us in terms of cleaning, the cleanliness, the tenants of wash components, hygiene factor, same time, targeting the population at our areas. We also have to convince household to apply for legal connections and avail amnesty on their unauthorized connection. We have got magisterial powers to file cases in the court. There is a water court in Delhi which we can file cases, and we have the magisterial power to disconnect water in these households where theft is, pilferage is coming in. But that is not an answer. We have to create a theory where encourage people to take connection. That means by better quality of service, scheduling water connection camps, water meter installation drives, sensitizing the community to work with us, and grievance redressal. So we have a helpline, 24/7 helpline, both on the mobile as well as landline. We are allowing people to pay bills on Paytm, on UPI, on Bheem, online services. We have customer cash counters also, but now the touch and feel is less. All is online. So achievements of Nangloi in this is a case study of World Bank as well for us. Average 15% reduction in non-revenue water from where we were starting off. Some areas have brought down to around 25%. 91% increase in the consumers. We have almost over 2 lakh house service connections today from a situation of zero situation. Reduction in contamination of water complaints. Customer satisfaction has gone up. 80% of the population is getting water meters. We are serving 1.2 million people in Delhi to be giving this kind of thing. We are also having mobile bill collection and ATM collections. So I think at the end of the day, from a water perspective, without water, sanitation cannot happen. Without sanitation, wash cannot happen. So address social and ethical concerns, very important for us as running 24/7 water utilities. Effective governance of the program, because it's a large capital investment. This project itself is around 750 crores of investment done on a PPP project mode. Effective, so that means revenues, collection, billing, non-revenue water, O&M, KPIs, efficiencies, all have to be looked at. And finally, we have to have intelligence system to monitor. So entire network is being put in through SCADA system. So if you come in, I'll invite all of you to come into Delhi. You'll see a control system at our water treatment plant, which is managing the entire network of reservoirs, all the pipeline network, and finding out where leakage is happening and how to stop the leakages as and when it comes in. So this is a 24/7 real-time example of a water network, of a water utility coming in so our example we find is very, very challenging actually going forward. So over to Mr. Sen and Ruchi to take it forward, and I will be very happy to share further details if any.
Thank you, Mr. Das Patnaik. That was a very enlightening and informative presentation, and as you all had seen and very rightly said, that WASH, the first letter is W, which stands for water. So without water, hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah. Why the background has suddenly gone? Hello?
Sir, audible,
Oh,
audible.
okay, fine, right. And also warm welcome to Mr. Ravi Todi, Managing Director of Shrachi, whom I see over here. Welcome, sir. And
Warm welcome, Mr. Todi.
yeah. Now can I ask Dr. Kaur, are you online? Hello, Dr. Kamal Kaur. Please unmute. Hello.
Yeah.
Dr. Kaur, you
Yes.
can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Wonderful. Okay, be online while I introduce you. And fortunately, we received your presentation just now, so our people will be operating the PPT. Now, as you all heard from Mr. Das Patnaik, all the various perspectives of water business, from the treatment to the effluent treatment, the septic tank, sewage treatment, and so much of importance on the water because as we rightly pointed out, sanitation cannot work without the water. So, and now post-pandemic, a lot more importance has been given to this so that the water can be used to generate good sanitation and good health and hygiene, which is so important for us in the post-pandemic era. Now, switching over to the other part of WASH, which is sanitation, where we are also particularly active. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Kamal Kaur, who is a globally renowned figure in sanitation and the mindset and behavioral training in sanitation. In fact, you know, the phenomenon of open defecation, which was the elimination of open defecation was the pillar of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, after which Jal Jeevan started. This project was much more a mindset and behavioral change program rather than a toilet construction program. Because wherever the toilets were constructed without the mindset and behavioral change, invariably we found that the toilets were used for storage houses and something else. And the basic mindset, which was that if you look at the villagers and the slum dwellers, they had cell phones, but they jolly well didn't have any toilets. And Dr. Kamal Kaur was one of the pioneers of this mindset and behavioral change to eliminate open defecation all over the world, in fact. He's actually the founder chairman of Community-Led Total Sanitation Systems, CLTS. And this CLTS foundation had a mission of eliminating open defecation by making people internally understand that they have to get proper sanitation rather than forcing them or giving subsidies to build toilets. And he has done this mission in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and led this approach in 1919 to 2000 and has become a world-renowned figure in this behavioral change space in sanitation and has been able to transform this no subsidy policy into a model of community empowerment and mobilization, radically transforming the global sanitation policy from toilet construction to collective behavioral change. He's done it in Latin America, Asia, Africa, affecting the lives of 50 million, more than 50 million people, and in 30 countries of the world. And over the last 15 years has spread CLTS, providing capacity building, policy advice, and has worked with international agencies like WSP, DFID, UNICEF, WHO, Irish Aid, Water Aid, Plan International Care, and many, many others. I, in fact, have met Dr. Kaur more in international forums in sanitation than anywhere else. And he has done a phenomenal job and globally renowned for this. And today he's recognized as a global authority in natural resources management, low cost appropriate technology in farming, urban poverty, slum improvement, and local governments in India, Mongolia, Bangladesh, and Cambodia. So Dr. Kaur, it's a great pleasure to call you to the forum, and please let us know your views on how the pandemic has affected behavioral change in sanitation with your vast experience, and what are we going to look forward to in the sanitation space. Over to you, Dr. Kaur. And I would request our systems people to please operate the PPT which he shared. Thank you so much. Dr.
Thank
Kaur.
you very
Yeah.
Sen. Thank you very much, Mr. Sen, and thank you very much to all the audience. I don't know, because there was a technical glitch and then I could not speak on time, and many of my friends, I informed them, those who are from different parts of India and different parts in the world. So they thought that, there has been some change. But anyway, it was a problem, on the technical problem. I couldn't come in time at 4 o'clock. However, I'm sure that some of you must be listening, and but it's the same old story. But today, Mr. Sen has requested me to speak the importance of behavior change, and in this particular critical time, difficult time, we have been passing, all the humanity passing globally through this difficult time of COVID-19 pandemic. And this COVID-19 virus has really changed the whole world and the way of life and everything. But at the base of it is, again, the behavior change, not the individual behavior change, but collective behavior change. So it is not the first time that in the world we have been experiencing such kind of things. I would like to take you back to, not even 100 years, it's about 100 years when you must have heard the name Jon Snow. And in the UK, in England, hundreds and thousands of people were dying. Cholera, typhoid, and all sort of, waterborne diseases. That time, people thought that it's a kind of a disease which is airborne, it's coming by air, and, and it was infecting people and people were dying. But one Jon Snow, he first time thought that maybe it is a waterborne, through water, this thing was spreading. So he started doing something in the city of London and tried to protect the water sources, and that particular invasion, that changed the shape of the world. And people realized that how open defecation and the shit and all that, was contaminating the drinking water. And in the Westminster, the people, the whole Thames River was smelling, stinking with human feces. And the members of parliament, they used to cover their nose with handkerchief and all that, because it was so smelly. And human feces and human excreta was everywhere. And in Paris, the loo, the word loo, where from it came in, the toilet. And people in France, in Paris, in big cities, they used to defecate in paper bags and throw it from the window, and used to shout "Garde loo." And the paper bag, used to land up on the passers-by with the shit in it. And with the sound means that you take care, I'm throwing something. People used to throw. And we have seen also, throwing all the garbage and stuff from the window. In our childhood, I've seen in Calcutta also, all the vegetable waste and this and that, and throw it from the window. So the whole issue is that I am clean. I have been using my toilet, but do you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes. Loud and clear. Yes. Carry on. Yeah.
Okay. So now, if we think that we have been using toilets, I'm sure that those who are hearing now in the joining in this webinar, I'm sure that none of you defecate in the open. But I can tell you that many of you must have had some bouts of diarrhea or stomach upset or something like that anytime in your life. You had it. But then why you Now the one basic biology, simple biology, if you look at shit, you don't get diarrhea. If you smell shit, you don't get it. You touch shit and wash your hands with soap, you don't get it. You got to eat shit. So it has to go inside you, ingested. So the question is, when we defecate, we use toilets and our excreta is safely confined, then how come we get it? In fact, we use toilets and our excreta is safely confined, but people around us, those who do not have access to toilets, those who defecate in the open, we have been ingesting their shit. And it is brought to our food chain by different means, as you know, the flies and goat and this and that and water and et cetera, and different means. So looking at that, what I'm trying to, emphasize here, that it is not an individual behavior change, but it's a collective behavior change. And that particular thing, when I developed this approach, community-led total sanitation approach in Bangladesh in late 1999 and early 2000, Bangladesh was was one of the countries with highest number of diarrheal death and child mortality and malnutrition under 5, the stunted growth and all other issues. But when this was developed, and this, I developed in a district called Rajshahi in the northern part of Bangladesh, but all over Bangladesh, the diarrhea, open defecation was there, and you knew the diarrhea was random. The diarrhea was pretty high, the rate of diarrhea. And, as a result, the ICDDRB, International Center for Diarrheal Disease Research, was based in Dhaka. But mainly, to tackle the problem of diarrhea was medication and all other things, and saline and et cetera. But when we started doing this, first time the community realized that we have been ingesting each other's feces, because if one person defecates in the open, everyone in the community is exposed to that danger, because that one is spreading everywhere. And that was the birth of CLTS, or community-led total sanitation, which Mr. Sen said is now practiced all over the developing world, all countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. I named it community-led total sanitation. And, it's the same thing in French. It's called, it's the same thing, community-led total sanitation. And now this is being used, and in all the developing countries. And today, if you look at some of those countries in Africa, many of those countries in Africa and Asia, who had the huge diarrheal death, they have completely changed. The whole scenario has been changed. But it is 100% based on collective community behavior change, that we don't defecate in the open, and we don't allow our community to defecate in the open, and everybody washing hands with soap. And if you are landless, you cannot afford to have a toilet, so the community help them and support them. And the whole social solidarity comes in, that maybe you are poor, but you are not allowed to defecate in the open. Use my toilet or your friends or relatives' toilet. The whole issue is that everybody, when the awareness came and everybody realized that by open defecation, everybody will be in danger, then that becomes, a community pressure, a peer pressure comes up, and everybody is helped. And it no longer remains as a individual good, but it moves into achieving the collective good. This is the whole environment where we are living in is open defecation free. a public good, from individual good to move to a public good, that it's an open defecation-free environment. Same thing here. With this COVID-19 pandemic, we see we are all talking about lockdown and all that, the imposition by the government and why we are doing this and that, because that, and you have already seen that with the lockdown and completely stopping all that human activities, that stops human beings to, to come close contact with each other, how it has impacted positively. And the impact of lockdown we have seen. But at the same time, if we think about it, that why the government has to come up and impose these things. As a matter of fact, if the level of awareness is very high, then everybody can practice that, and as a public behavior, as a behavior change, we know that what to do and how to behave in a public place. But as you know, in a country like India, where the level of awareness, and for obvious reasons, for many reasons, the people cannot necessarily always practice this, even they do understand. But the lack of understanding and lack of access to information is also a serious issue in our country. But it's again and again, it is coming back to that awareness and access to information, and eventually practicing safe sanitation and change behavior due to different situations. See, the COVID-19 virus, or any other things, for that matter, if you remember, the SARS virus came and bird flu, and in the past many other things came. It's not that they all vanished and disappeared from the world. No, in that all that, those things, they do exist and it will be there. But if we create an environment, and if a particular conducive environment is created, then these viruses, they come back and then again spread. So this one, as we know, then in China, how it jumped out, in the RNA from the pangolin, from the bats to human beings, and then it spread everywhere, and it mutated and all other things. I'm not going into that genetics and all that bit of it, but somehow it has affected the human race, and very badly. Now, with this, if you look at that coronavirus cases globally, which is an alarming figure, 231 lakhs global coronavirus cases, and 800, something like the death is more than 8 lakhs death. And recovery is also quite high, 157 lakhs, whereas in India, the total cases is 297 lakhs, the cases now. But the total recovery is also 22 lakhs. However, the death per million of people is 40. Hello? 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 Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Yeah, please put Swarup, please put everybody on mute apart from Dr. Kaur. Yeah.
Okay. Shall I continue? Hello?
Please continue. Dr. Kaur, please continue. Yeah.
Okay. But you see, the death in every million is in India, it's 40. Whereas in many countries, US, Brazil, this and that, it's pretty high, more than 500, it's death per million. But then why? Then there are other issues, there are questions and all that, see, the issues like we have been, this leads to another controversial aspect, that from childhood, I mean, we from the young age, we have had many bouts of diarrhea and all kind of things, and cholera, this and that, and etc., etc. So not that, I mean, the environment in which we grew up was perfectly all right and all sanitized and everything. So the question of, we have had some immunity and some resistance or something like that, and we have been fighting that all the time. But that is why, perhaps that is one of the reasons, in India, we did not have that much of a death rate, and the recovery rate was also very, very high. And now there are other issues, herd immunity developing, and there are the questions of, I mean, the virus is also changing, and, it's declining in its virulence and all other things. Now, anyway, I'm coming back to this subject of behavior change. If you look at the slide, the third slide, Mr. Sen, I think you have been changing it, because I can't change it from here. Can you see the slide there? The third slide. Hello, Mr. Sen? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Sir, continue.
Hello. Please
Yeah.
carry on. Yeah.
Do you hear me? Can you see my slides? Can you change the slide, please?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go to the third slide? And if you see, look at the third slide, and you see that this is a map of a village, and the households around are, those circles are households. And you can see that the rounds with a cross X, that means these are the people, these are the households, they do not have access to sanitation, and they defecate in the open. But those households with the circles with L, they have a latrine, they have a toilet. So now you can see those who are having toilet, if they think that, we are safe because we have a toilet. No. These are the people, their neighbors, defecating in the open, and their feces is coming back to them. So you can see the arrow in different directions. So when the people realize this, we call it triggering, CLTS triggering, community-led total sanitation triggering, meaning everybody understands that there is a that everybody.
Hello.
Anyway, so Mr. Sen, can you change the slide to the next one?
Systems, please be on the slides. Please change the slide. Please change the slide.
Please change the slide to the next one.
Yeah.
And
please,
after
Dr. Kaur, please give your instructions and they will do it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please come to the slide number 4, after the map, and you see that why we have to, everybody, whole world is talking about, it's saying that, we have to depend for, wait for the vaccine. So does it mean that till the vaccine comes, we have to accept that continuous death and everything, and infection, high level of infection will continue? No. Here comes the question that if you look at that, if you look at the pattern of spread of COVID-19 and its link with the behavior change, if we all know that how we can come in contact with everyone, and I mean to other people, and how we can survive and how we can change our behavior and maintain the contactless activities to the extent possible, as much as possible. You have seen that we have been using masks, using hand sanitizers, and maintaining the social distancing and everything. The question is that it is, if some of us do it and others don't do it, we don't get the impact and the benefit. Again, it's a question of collective behavior change. Understanding is not enough, but practicing that same is also equally important, rather more important. If we understand this, so now I'll tell you an example of one country in West Africa, in Liberia and Sierra Leone. You must have heard that how when Ebola spread, the Ebola virus, the Ebola spread about 10 years back, and it was devastating these countries. And in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Burkina Faso, and all those places around, Benin, Togo. But I was working in Liberia, and I had introduced CLTS in that country, and more than 200 ODF villages, in a continuous patch of more than 200 ODF open defecation-free villages, where communities stopped the practice of open defecation, and they stopped the bouts of diarrhea, cholera, and etc., etc. There was not a single case of Ebola death. While at the same time, there was not a single village around them which didn't have an Ebola death. Hundreds, so many households had all deaths of Ebola. Dead bodies were piled up. It was a terrible situation. Whereas in the open defecation-free villages, those used CLTS, there was not a single case of Ebola death. That became a news. And Johns Hopkins University, the researchers, they came in and they studied, they wanted to find out what was the cause for that. And they were stunned, when they found that the people practiced behavior change. And completely, they learned something during CLTS when they stopped the pandemic of the epidemics of cholera, typhoid, and all other things, and diarrhea and child mortality. They could stop it by stopping that open defecation practice and using toilets and washing hands and everything. They did that same thing. And they did not allow people coming from villages who did not practice, who continued to practice open defecation. They said, no, you don't come here. And that saved them from Ebola. And that was their discovery. That was a finding from the Johns Hopkins, and they realized that it was so powerful. So I'm coming back to that particular point. And in similar approaches like CLTS of collective behavior change could check the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. Washing hands, faces, and ensuring proper hygiene practice by individuals and the community can impact greatly in the control and effective mitigation of this particular pandemic. We can move to the next slide. And if you move to the next slide, you will see that open defecation-free ODF villages, Ebola, 100% were Ebola-free. As I told you this story, these incidents from Sierra Leone and Liberia and those countries, Western African countries, non-ODF villages where they were not open defecation free, it was 73% Ebola free, but it was not like 100% Ebola free like in there. Then non-beneficiary household, 24% Ebola free. So you see, it's a very clear, this is a very, very simple findings, and they found that this was the impact. So I'm just trying to tell you and taking you back to one of such epidemics of Ebola, and now it has come to COVID-19 and SARS. So these things came in, but human beings had developed their own, the community developed and practiced the measures to mitigate such kind of invasions of virus and other diseases. But to what extent we could practice it, there was a huge variation from country to country. We move to the next slide, please. Are we moving to the next slide? Is that all right? Is that working? Hello?
Yes, sir, the slides are changing.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. So if you look at that, you see the blue, yellow, and the pink, the big three circles, the three pillars of CLTS, or community-led total sanitation, totally based on behavior change. The number one is attitude and behavior change. Number two, CLTS tools and techniques. And number three is enabling environment. So again, coming back to this, if you look at the attitude and behavior change, whose attitude? Personal attitude, institutional attitude, and professional attitude. Meaning that attitudinal change, not that my own attitude needs to be changed, but I should have that attitude that this is a critical time and I have to change my behavior and behave in such a way that I follow the norms of the community and the social norms. And institutions must support, and professionally also we should be supportive. The health professionals and the service staff and everyone, they have been, they are the front runner, and they have been working on it, and whatever the suggestions coming from them are more advanced and more effective in mitigating this kind of situation. So this is this attitude that somebody can have an attitude that I don't care and I know everything, I know what to do and I do it. So that's not the right attitude to participate in a situation like this. And then the CLTS tools and techniques, I'm not going into that because this is the community-led total sanitation. But here, the techniques are what? Hand washing, wearing mask constantly all the time, and whenever you are in a public place, and maintaining, the social distance, and all sort of things. And the enabling environment, that is the government is providing, and we are saying that it's 2 days lockdown, and then from this time to this time is allowed for the market and this and that, etc., etc. So that means the environment is also trying the policy context, the interinstitutional coordinations, the state government, central government, and different institutions, research institutions, and health organizations, institutions, and national protocol and budget. So these are the things they all put together, and you can see a green circle in the center, which is the essential convergence. So our attitude, behavior, the practice, tools and techniques, and etc., and the enabling environment, all these things put together, and then we achieve it. We can achieve that. But if you remove one circle from this, then it's not a full complete. The circuit is not complete, and you may not get the full advantage, and you will not get it, the benefit, the maximum benefit from this. So we move to the next slide, please. And you see that coronavirus awareness raising campaign and the local empowerment of communities is the most powerful weapon in fighting COVID-19 pandemic. So as I was telling you, that washing hands with soap and all the time, and wearing mask, maintaining social distancing and quarantine, and keep your distance, and all other issues, and we know that it is that what are those things which can keep us safe, but to what extent they are maintained. You must have seen that even in the lockdown period and during the other time, the markets are full, and people in many places, is not respecting this. It's complete disregard to these things. That clearly means that a level of awareness, has to go up still, and we have to really constantly explain and convince our neighbors, our friends, and our relatives, and everyone that, look, this is a virus, we can't see them, but they have a pattern of spread. And the best way we can stop it is to maintain, that distance and safe quarantine and everything. And it's not a black magic or something that you will come from somewhere and it will kill you. But the question is, it all is what we can do. It is very much within the hands of the individuals and the community, that a drastic change in the behavioral pattern, you can, to a great extent, you can stop that and you can control it. And gradually it will vanish. So now we have all seen that in Europe and in United States, how, and when the summer came in Europe, people thought that, it's the best time in Europe, and sunshine and everything. People forgot everything. They went to the sea beach and crowding and everything. It started spreading again in some places, somewhere, some different places you must have seen in the news. But in the United States also, in the initial stage, they did not pay much attention to this restrictions and all that. But when they imposed these rules once again and strictly followed these norms, then things started changing. And it was it was kind of, people saw the impact of it. So while ending this talk, now I'm finishing, I'll be available for question answers and everything. I can see that already some questions are coming up in this. Now, I would like to tell you that it is those who are listening to today's webinar, and I'm sure that all of you practice it, but please make sure and take an oath that we definitely convey this message to people around us, and at least each one of us must convince more than 10, 15 people on a daily basis. Only then it will be spread by and large, and the community will start practicing. A new normal, we are talking about new normal, and that will emerge. And the COVID-19 will be controlled. And I stop here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kaur. That was a very interesting talk indeed, with a little bit of a different accent on the post-pandemic era, and was very interesting to see that wherever the open defecation free was achieved, there the virus also disappeared. And that shows how much hygiene and sanitation, proper hygiene and sanitation creates immunity levels, which help us to cope with any sort of a pandemic which happens. And so our business is very much related to improving the immunity levels also. So we'll catch up with Dr. Kaur later on. There are a number of questions. And coming to the subject of open defecation, I think we'll all agree that the most affected community are the women and the girls. And in our WASH projects, we have always tried to focus a lot on the betterment and the better wellness of women and girls, because we have seen that the higher productivity of the female population is probably one of the reasons why China has gone much ahead of India. And we need to promote women as far as possible, and the maximum mindset changes are as far as women and girls are concerned, the female population are concerned. We've seen it in the movies of thank God that they have introduced and made everybody aware, in Toilet Ek Prem Katha, in Padman. And just the other day, I was watching Gunjan Saxena streaming on Hotstar, and a very interesting episode where this lady, she joins the Indian Air Force, and she's desperately trying to find a toilet. And when she goes to the administrator and tells her, I've joined the Air Force, where's the toilet? And he tells her very rudely that, this place was not made for ladies. I don't know why you are here, how you have joined. And this shows what sort of a mindset there is, even today, regarding women. And we're so glad that there is a Mrs. Soma Mandal, who has become the chairperson of SAIL in a hardcore engineering industry, and broken the glass ceiling as far as women are concerned. It's happening everywhere. And I'm very happy to introduce Mrs. Chaitali Das today, who is who's again globally recognized, and I fondly referred to her as Mrs. Superwoman, because everywhere I look at the Facebook posts every day, something or other she's doing. And she is actually the global chairperson and managing trustee of Rakshak Foundation, and has done pioneering work in promoting women's empowerment, in improving the lives of women, which is so important in our sector as well as every other sector. She is a jute revivalist, former Mrs. International, and focused on women empowerment, environment conservation, exemplary work in prison reforms, in changing the mindset of people to change plastics into jute, and is the recipient of too many awards. It's a too long a list, but I'll just, she's a recipient of World Humanitarian Award in the status of Kuwait Women Super Achiever, Women Achiever for Excellence in Social Entrepreneurship, and the list goes on and on. And we're really looking forward, Mrs. Das, to your experience on how women are changing, and how this impacts the post-pandemic era, and what are your experiences in how you have improved the lives of women in the water sanitation hygiene sector. Over to you, Mrs. Chaitali Das.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sen. And first of all, I would like to compliment you that you are wonderfully moderating today's discussion. And I would like to thank Ms. Ruchi Todi, Director Shrachi Group, for setting the tone. And it was so wonderful and enlightening to hear the fellow panelists. And I'm sure I'm going to take back a lot of insights, and which I'm going to implement. Good evening, Dr. Ajay Pradhan, Mr. Saurabh Das Patnaik. I keep interacting with you for several issues on the social development. Well, I think my task has become easy because my fellow panelists and the experts, they have already talked about the sanitation and the behavioral pattern. But I will throw some light on the Indian as an Indian citizen, as a woman, and as a citizen of India. I'm pleased to share my thoughts pausing at the crossroad posed by the unprecedented pandemic COVID-19, rerouting, resetting the direction ahead. Well, we all know, and I would also like to reiterate that India has a population more than 1.3 billion. It is the 7th largest country in the world with total area of 3.287 million square kilometer. For the ever-growing population, government and civil society continue to grapple with this issue of sanitation. Well, I just going through a survey which just says by the National Statistical Office, NSO, in the November 2019, titled Drinking Water, Sanitation, Hygiene and Housing Conditions in India. It claimed that about 28.7% of rural households across India still, I reiterate, lacked access to any form of toilets. Moreover, 3.5% of the households who are already having toilets, unfortunately, they don't use it. Well, sanitation is an issue that affects everyone, but women are often the most at risk. Open defecation is more than a sanitation issue. Women avoiding defecation in the dark. Let me just throw some light, as we all know, but still, it's not very uncommon. It's very common. Yet, I think it is appropriate to mention that women avoiding defecation in the dark due to their fear of wild animals, insects, and also being the victim of sexual abuses. Several women either do not eat or reduce their food intake in half after the dark to avoid the need of defecate. young girls, they are too shy to further look out for an isolated place the time when they are menstruating. Let's imagine the elderly women, the pregnant women, women who are suffering from diarrhea. They can't go far away, so they have to look out a place near their house to defecate, and which they invite the family at risk due to the health issue. Well, coming back to the men, which is very common in India, where we see that they find every nooks and corner as their toilet. Why so? Because they are never stopped. Now let me come back to a mother, which is again a very common picture. It's very common scene to all of us. We see everywhere a woman will make her child, defecate in the open anywhere by the side of the road or near the bushes. So that child, when he grow up and he becomes a man, he thinks that the world is his toilet. Well, let me throw some light on my organization, Rakshak Foundation, and how we have faced some challenges in terms of the behavioral pattern. Now, coming back to one project, and just now that Mr. Saurabh Das Patnaik has already mentioned about the Ganga cleaning, the water, and so it reminds me that we had joined some other organizations, a non-profit organizations, some volunteers, some cadets from the BSFs, and we cleaned the Ganga Ghats. That used to be our Sunday work, Sunday projects, that every Sunday that we will all group and we will clean up each ghat. Now, while doing so, we also planted some trees, planted some saplings to beautify the place. But the thing is that immediately after we did, we congratulated, we thought that we are satisfied that we have done a job and this place is looking beautiful. But we find the other people coming and they are actually using it as a toilet. Some of us volunteered and said that, why don't you see that this place is looking so beautiful? Why would you like to spoil it? They say that, look, where do we go? We don't have our toilet. We went to the community toilet where they don't have water and it's overcrowded. So this is the place where we come regularly. And we also pay tax, mind it. So this is the behavioral pattern and a very real experience that I had been through. Now we also run a Navadisha Center in association with Kolkata Police. So this center is for the children, the street children. Now we have students from up to the age of 17. And I have a student, she is 16 years old. She comes to this center with her baby in her lap, who is 6 months old. Later on, I realized that attraction is not only for study. The attraction is also to use the toilet. The children over there would come to use the toilet, to drink the water from the water filter and have some tiffin. So that is their added advantage. Let me just give you another example. I was selected for the Fortune Most Powerful Women Global Women Mentoring Partnership Program in 2017. And I was in an interactive session. And I remember that our lady from the audience asked me, "You're from India?" I said, "Yes." Do you all open in the, do you all go to the toilet and use the toilet in the open? I was really not prepared for this answer. But of course that I had covered up, saying that yes, we are reaching that goal and soon we are going to be declared as ODF. But yes, mind it, it's a time to introspect and it's time for us to really roll up our sleeves and get into the action collectively. Well, enough of this gloom doom stories that I have shared. So I would also like to throw some light on our the success, which we feel proud. On the contrary, India has strived to attain greater heights in every field with great achievements. India has launched 118 satellites since 1975, successfully putting Mangalyaan spacecraft into the Mars orbit. India has shown its technological and intelligence capacity to the entire world. In scientific research, India is positioned as one of the top 5 nations in the field for space exploration. India is expected to surpass 400 million social media users by 2021. And of course, that we all know that India is talking about $5 trillion economy in 2024, whereas still we lack to make our toilets. It is not only the government, because the government has already so many schemes, where I would like to conclude with the remedies and the accountability, which is not only on the government, but it is also for the civil society, for the corporate, for the voluntary organization, for the public at large. The Swachh Bharat mission was one of such publicized project. More than 90 million toilets were built across the country as part of this project. Of course, that we know innumerable projects by Nirmal Bangla mission, by the state of West Bengal were set up. But several studies have showed up that building toilets not such challenging than making the people use the toilet. Well, amidst this global pandemic and the challenge that the entire world is facing, there is one little hope and opportunity I find regards to this behavioral pattern. I guess that this is the right time to raise the awareness. Due to the lockdown and amidst the COVID-19, we have become more disciplined, washing our hands frequently, using sanitizers. There is a lot focus on raising awareness through campaigning, through short films on behavior, providing financial incentives or disincentives, enacting required legislations, etc. to further needs, but it also further needs sensitizing it and collectively change the behavioral pattern. So the constant behavioral awareness movement and campaigning should be there. It's a very honor. I would like to end with a very emotional note, and which I'm sure that we all connect together. If our fellow brothers and sisters don't have the basic minimum access to the toilet, it's a shame to the citizens. It's a shame to the humanity. So I urge, let's rise and spread the awareness. And I'm thankful to the Shrachi group for giving me this opportunity to share my thought. I also would like to mention and the film fraternity for presenting such beautiful films called Padman and Toilet Ek Prem Katha. I'm sure that this has made a major impact on the masses and public adaptability and acceptance. A nation can grow and flourish only if there is an equal participation. And I'm sure that this requires a lot of handholding, and collectively we can work effectively to make our people and our fellow citizens sensitized about this. And particularly, as my foundation and my focus is on women empowerment, it hurts me. I'm in deep pain when my fellow sisters are openly defecating. So I just share my views and thoughts with the industry leaders, with all of you. And we are there. My foundation is there to support you to your endeavor. Let us fight it out, and we must make India ODF. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Das, and exactly what perspective I wanted you to throw on, the women part of it. And listening to your talk, I am reminded about this foreigner who several years back, we asked him, what do you think of India? So that chap, he said that in India, every time is tea time, everybody's a doctor, and every place is a toilet. And, particularly, we are looking to see that the women certainly must have a proper place to be able to do that toilet and have a mindset that this is where they should be in order to make themselves much better in health and hygiene. So there's a lot of work still to be done on these behavioral changes. And Dr. Kaur will also bear me out that the women and children and the girls are the most preferred category to improve on lives. Thank you so much. We are a little bit running out of time, so I want to straight jump onto our special guest speaker who is here, Dr. Ajay Pradhan. Dr. Ajay, you are there? Hello.
I'm there very much today.
Okay, welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining in. Dr. Pradhan again will talk about the water sector. Again, it's the other brother, sister in the other part of the wash. And we've already heard from Mr. Das Patnaik several perspectives about behavioral changes in the water sector. I'd like to introduce Dr. Ajay Pradhan, who has 3 decades of experience in planning, designing, and implementation of important projects, consultant in Planning Commission and modeling group of National Informatics Center. And he is a specialist in irrigation management, sediment management, river engineering, integrated water resources management, wastewater to energy, integrated flood management. There's so many aspects of water management, which is so important. And he holds a master and PhD in water resources management and in engineering. And without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Pradhan. Please, we are looking forward to your deliberation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you for your good, kind words and introduction. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can see. Please proceed. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sudeep, and to the organizer for inviting me. And you can see I have got 2 logos in my presentation. In the first presentation slide, you can see is Water Alliance India, where you have heard Mr. Das Patnaik, who is also one of the trustees in this alliance, which work for society and water, sanitation, and solid waste. And then I have another cap, which is my consulting company, which is called CITAS Consulting Solution Private Limited. And before I start, I'd like to show you a small documentary or a small movie, it's a couple of minutes, and then as a safety measures for everyone, and then I'll continue with my presentation.
Hello, everything all right? Dr. Pradhan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, everything all right?
Yeah, all right. Yes.
Yeah. Please continue. We're not actually hearing you.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Pradhan?
Yes.
Any problem?
No, I'm fine.
But we're not able to hear you.
No, I'm not speaking actually. I'm not speaking right now.
Oh, you got stuck up somewhere?
No. This is a video going on. I hope you can see the video.
No, we're not able to see the video.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Oh,
That's why I was wondering.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me just see. That's
Yeah, please put the video on. It's just a still screen. That's why we were
okay.
wondering
Let,
what's
let me
happening.
just see. Maybe that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think probably you couldn't see my video. That's a problem. Let's see. Why can't I?
Anyway, Dr. Pradhan,
Yes.
don't worry. In any case, we're a little short of time. So I
Yeah.
suggest please go ahead with the rest of your presentation.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And I'll touch base with you and we'll
Sure. No
get
problem.
hold of your video later.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I thought you could see my video. Okay,
No
problem.
Please continue.
All right. Thank you, Sudeep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Sorry for that. And let me just go ahead, as Sudeep mentioned, that I don't work on the social sector. We do have intention to work in social sector. That is for the society and through our Water Alliance, India. And when my colleague and good friend, Mr. Saurav Daspurna, is also supporting, as one of the founding member. But what is happening actually, as you know, that we come from industry side, where we design, develop, and monitor and manage large infrastructure, water infrastructure, be it water supply system, or it is wastewater system, or the solid waste management, recycling or processing of the sludge, various other aspects related to those infrastructure. Now, what happened actually, the new normal is happening because the sanitary service workers, wherever, whether it's developing country or developed countries, people were not really so much careful in managing the wastewater plants or the work areas, because they're not much, because it was processed water, whether it's wastewater or fresh water supply or water supply system. But in coming days, what is happening, because of many countries have found that the RNA or the virus or the particles have been noticed in the wastewater, in sometimes also drinking water also. Therefore, and the normal is that all the workers working in the sanitation sector, water supply sector, are being advised to wear actually PPE and other gears to ensure their safety and health, and ensure their environment is also maintained. Same thing also, what happened actually in the water supply system, if it is water is coming directly from a river or any streams which has not been treated and not fully treated, then what happened actually, then you find also the particles of the virus. And in order to really ensure and safety, so it has been advised that all the major water supply systems have been asked to maintain a kind of residual concentration of a free chlorine, up to 0.5 milligram per liter, and same thing or pH. So that's to ensure that people are safe from drinking water. Same thing, if you are using you are not connected to the centralized system, you have your individual, where coming from groundwater sources or your own borewell, it is advisable to use actually EV, but not in all areas. I think the areas where you see number of hospitals are there, facilities there, you'll see that there is areas where there are having many patients, like the clusters, and those areas is advisable to use that. So, there's also been, research is going on, and data is being collected, because it's only last 6 months. We're trying to really find out if there is a virus or, there in the sludge. So therefore, this is one area where we are spending a lot of money in water, wastewater, and sanitation sector, including solid waste management, in investing a lot of money in the surveillance and monitoring, and then testing. So just like we are doing in what do you call, in tracing and monitoring in surveillance for the COVID patients. Now, this is a study done by a girl who works for WaterAid, I guess, and she did a survey in month of April, and this is a kind of a behavior, hygiene, and changes in mindset of the people. And it's done in this girl is from Banda and worked in MP, UP, and part of Delhi, and got some 230 odd samples. And you can see how this has been, the change in behavior, change in use of sanitizer and soap has been increased, from nothing to, gone up to, something like 70-80% in some cases. Same thing also if you look at, changes in hand washing, and that's tremendous. And that is happening. This data is also presented from both rural and urban areas. So that means there is a kind of a, holistic understanding between the rural and urban areas about the disease and the behavior and new normal to maintain and manage themselves from the further, spread. And this is also been taken from one of those hygiene, magazine, So what does the experience tell us about changing hygiene behaviors? Now, how much really information and education can last actually? The sustainability. Do you really think that? Maybe as long as this is happening, probably, this will stay there in our mind. But the most important, I think everyone talked, I think previously before me, and they talk about the community-based approach is one of the best, which can really give a better effect and a long-lasting impact in the society. Same thing, social and commercial marketing, that's also required and a part of the initiative, whether through the government, public, private, or civil society organization. Psychological and social theory, it would remain there. People are a little bit sensitized because of in the news, because of people, because of various sources, and by government, public, and civil society organizations. Now, what you see actually here, there are a lot of documentation is coming up because the data points were not there earlier. Now we have almost 6-7 months from February. If you look at least, we have 6 months of data, which is a good data. And we found also, some areas there is a, the particles of RNA has been found in some Western European countries like Netherlands and Italy and France and all, and some cities in the United States also is fine. So that's how it has been very, very stringently monitored by the agencies. And what is going to happen actually, the cases when happening at a certain location as a cluster, and they try to really ensure that the water supply system being cut and being supplied or fed from the another distinct meter zone. So this is how the technology also play a role. So if your zone, if you are coming in certain areas and your water is being contaminated in that location, so what you do that you cut up that area, you have another system you bring and connect to this. So this is not happening in our country. So I think we need to have those alternative sources and have a regulatory measures, distinct meter areas. So therefore we can always ensure that the contamination do not reach or get into your pipeline system. Something the data transmission like fecal sludge and all. Fecal sludge is another aspect which is also found in many cases. Many in New York it has been found, Connecticut has been found, Italy has been found. But so far in India we are very poor in monitoring and managing. We don't have much data point in that sense. But I think I'm sure that if you look at some of the clusters where this is what do you call containment is happening in those areas, if you take some samples, probably you find some RNAs particles and all those things. Now the other aspect, what we see that in a country like India or any other developing country, we can't do 100% surveillance or monitoring and management of the wastewater systems or sludges or even solid waste management. There will be some leakages. We don't have those facilities. We don't have that institutional strong mechanism to really help. So what you do actually essentially, in order to contain and to ensure that your water supply, your entire sanitation system is been, protected from getting infection or disinfection, to ensure that there is a proper disinfection happening. So what you do actually essentially, we try to really use the data point from, and this is very strong point, especially when there is, you see that asymptomatic patients. We are quite biased in that sense, So many areas you will see the asymptomatic, or pre-symptomatic patients are there and all. So there, there could be, like in Delhi, we found in zero service, like almost 30% people are already been, kind of nearly towards a herd community. It goes very fast in towards 50%. So if you look at that, so therefore there will be some remnant, or there will be some, the contamination or this virus spread already there actually. So therefore that kind of data, if you get from a sludge, from wastewater, it would help us to really look at how how this disease is being spread, and spatially that's been distributed in cities or towns or in rural areas. So that is, it's a big task for everyone to us. We can take number of samples, just like we're doing testing and all. So therefore, it is very, very essential to, besides surveillance, because surveillance is one aspect. You could do actually a lot of testings in that, so in order to ensure that you prevent this disease or the it's contaminating the large part of the water bodies and sewage systems. So epidemiologically, this wastewater could also act like in old days. Actually, people will always see that they don't get into that water and all. So that's where they see the contamination happening, and you boil the water and drink and all. Now, this is another aspect. You see that this COVID actually brought everyone, or the industries into a complete transmission, 360 degrees. Some industries who are manufacturing automobile, they are now manufacturing a, ventilator, they're manufacturing a N95, they're manufacturing a sanitizer and various other things. Now, how this is happening actually? So this is transformation is a process where, like a war, when war comes, that war brings actually a lot of innovation, a lot of new technologies, a lot of new ideas. And that's how it goes. And this is a method where the cities or the states or the citizen or the country can be resilient for a future pandemic or similar kind of attacks and all. And then also you look at how the people are behaving. Like look at these days, today is Ganpati Puja. I couldn't really invite my friends. Always we'll have 50-60 people coming home and having the feast kind of thing in the evening, but I couldn't do that. So I had to I had to order in the temple some prasad and I had to distribute in every house. Nobody want to come. Your neighbor also is not interested to come down. So this is how its behavioral changes is happening to your own neighborhood, your own people also. They don't want to come. The other aspect, what you see that, like you see, digitalization happening, your payment system, your billing system or your delivery system, it's all through the digital. All, in fact, all your meetings, conferences, everything happening now, what you do in a webinar through Zoom or WebEx or various things. Now, this is what actually bring in. The earlier days we were doing, digitalization of water industries, wastewater and all. It's a luxurious, this is not required. People always say, we can't afford the country, like we can't have so much of automations and digitalizations. But it is fact actually. Now you pay your electricity bill, you pay your water bill, your gas bill. It's 90% cases in Delhi where I live, it's all automated. They have ultrasonic meters also, they don't need to come and collect data. So this is what actually is bringing, actually they're investing money, and that invest is, they will take some time to recover. Now what happened actually, this is in the case of automations, that is going to really ensure that the cost which was earlier there, people say luxury, this much we can't afford in a country like India. But it is now the need of the hour to ensure that the sludge, which is, for example, in Delhi, we do 600, 700 tons of sludge in a day from any of the sewage treatment plant. And where it is gone, it is actually spread in one of the corner. And when there is a heavy rainfall, it just, gone into your water system, groundwater and all. And that contains even sometimes cobalt also, sometimes many hexachromium and many other heavy metals. So that's also one need to look at. The other aspect is actually, as you see that industries are short and or they're just coming up, but still not in full swing. Then you have a commercial activities also were stopped for 3, 4, 5 months now. Still, it's many industries are stopped. Hotels, restaurants, and many other establishments are also not functioning. So what is the problem? Operators, those who do the utility, water supply system, their revenue base has gone really hayward. Their business plans completely gone, and they need to ensure that you get good and clean water at your home 24/7. So that is a challenge for everyone, to how to get the money, how to ensure the revenue is being receipts are coming also in all the utilities, whether it's industrial or domestic or commercial sector. So this is another aspect, but we need to keep investing in the digitalization, automation, and that without that, really we can't really go anywhere. So other aspect is we need to bring down this, the industrial, commercial demand. So in domestic sector, what is happening? Like Chennai has said, don't pay money for 3 months, 4 months. But that's not really way it's going to take the country anywhere, because people are capable of to paying money. Those who cannot pay, they can defer. Why everybody has to go and not to pay the bill? And that's the problem. Same thing in the industries. You can't have a moratorium where you have capable of paying the money. So same thing in the loan deferment and other things. So I think we need to really look at to support the private, even government utility bodies also. The bills and other things need to be paid there. The other aspect also, you see that everybody expect, mindset in India is like to get a clean water, even for anything, for car washing, people use their domestic supply water for cleaning, even, for their, planting their nurseries, or, their, all kind of things they do, even cleaning floors, everything. This is not necessary. And people do not, can you think of that people will wash hand in the gray water after treating and supplying that? This is another aspect actually. So then the perception of people or families to use good water for hand washing, I think you need to really change that behavioral aspect also. I think this is what I wanted to say, Sudeep, on a short presentation of 10 minutes. I hope that makes some sense to our participants.
Thank you, Dr. Pradhan.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in and summarizing very well. I would like to ask Madam Ruchi, do we have time for the Q&A?
Yes, sir. If people want
go ahead.
Yes.
There are some questions. I'd like to quickly run through them. And our panelists are all here. Mr. Heng, are you here? There's a question which Dr. Kaur can probably want to answer, that he says that in this post-COVID situation, the situation is so bad in the sense that people have lost their employment and they don't have money, so they don't want to buy toilets and construct toilets even more than earlier. But here I'd like to say that they will have money to buy the new cell phones for proper connectivity, but they don't have money for the toilets. So it's all again the mindset. Dr. Kamal Kaur, are you there? Dr. Kaur? Dr. Kaur is not traceable, but see, this is your answer actually. It's absolutely a mindset and behavioral pattern that people will buy things which they want to buy. So if there's not buying for the toilet, that means it doesn't see the value. We'll see. That's why India has much more cell phones than they have toilets. And then again, this behavioral change, whether it can be enforced coupled with mass awareness. Dr. Kaur, I think is not online. And then how can we, Mr. Daspatnaik says, how can we enhance the effectiveness in convincing people to use more consciously? So this is all. I think Dr. Kaur would say that you have to continue doing proper behavioral change programs continuously, repetitively, so that the behavioral change is internalized in the process, in the community, and he's been very successful at that. So it's not something that you tell somebody to do and they will change. It is something that has to be done over a very long period of time and through communities. And then this mindset and behavioral change can take place. Now, since we've run out of time, I would like to call upon Madam Ruchi to propose a vote of thanks. And again, I will thank you from my side, all the esteemed speakers and the delegates who have taken out time on their Saturday evening. There are many who have joined on live on Facebook. And we hope that we will continue to interact with all of you to help us project and improve the water, sanitation and hygiene in the country, be able to create, preserve, eliminate, accept, and let's work towards a safer and better future where we support and respect each other, especially female population, women and girls. So over to you, Ruchi, to wind up this with a vote of thanks. Thank you all for attending. It's been a great pleasure for me to be moderating the whole webinar. And we look forward to another series of webinars which will come shortly. Thank you.
All right, so I would really like to give my gracious thanks to all the respected speakers for coming in despite the technical glitches and little bit of time constraint. And thank you so much to Mr. Sen also for moderating the session so well, and to all the support staff at Shrachi who helped make this possible. Thank you for highlighting the objectives and challenges of the Jal Jeevan mission. How the current processes of water treatment distribution really need to be re-examined, especially in light of the pandemic, so that we can ensure the utmost safety of, when concerned with water distribution and procurement. And how effective governance can really make this process easier for everyone. And also thank you about enlightening us about the extent and the severity of the problem of open defecation and its link to various deadly diseases, and the need to really seriously tackle the situation, not take it lightly at all. And it was also very, very heartening to note that the education rate or literacy rate can be improved if people are provided basic amenities like clean water and a toilet. And for women especially, it's empowering when clean water, clean places to use the bathroom are provided. It really helps them gain confidence. And this entire webinar, personally, I think was super enlightening and really learned a lot. And I hope all the attendees also take back home a very valuable lesson. So thank you very much. And yes, that would be all. Hope to see you again.
Okay. Goodbye and farewell to everybody. We're signing off, and we look forward to seeing you all sometime not so far away. Thank you all. Thanks the speaker, Mr. Das Patnaik, Mrs. Chaitali Das, Dr. Ajay Pradhan, Dr. Kaur. In spite of all the hiccups here and there, we finally made it, and I think we had a wonderful session. Thank you all, and
Thank you all.
good evening to you all. Okay.
Yes, have a wonderful weekend. Bye.